For the New York Yankees, as today we get ready for Baseball 93 on ESPN. It's still a fierce rivalry, the roots of which can be traced back to a single date, January 3rd, 1920. George Herman Ruth, then a Red Sox starting pitcher, sold outright to the New York Yankees. Traditions were then forged. The curse, perhaps. The last two Yankee World Championships came under the direction of the man known simply as the Boss. And now, following his lifetime suspension, the return and a new acquisition.
Hiya, sir. I told him, I'm glad you're here.
The most productive Red Sox player over the last 5 years, Wade Boggs, a five-time batting champion. Boggs in pinstripes, a strange and sinister sound to New England. But for Steinbrenner, now that name is in his lineup.
Boggs, third base, Boggs. And I would just go like this every time I heard that. And now to think that he's with us, I will sleep better.
1992's last place finish and the departure of Boggs should serve as a wake-up call to the Red Sox. Will the addition of Dawson and Calderon, plus the return of a healthy Carlos Quintana and Mike Greenwell, restore the power to Fenway? Will Jeff Russell nail down victories for the Rocket? Or will the superstition surface again at Fenway this fall, just like clockwork? Perhaps, but this has been a very stubborn curse. Welcome to Florida for the unpredictable world of spring training 93. Getting to know new teammates and dealing with bad weather, the big things down here. Today in Fort Lauderdale, the Yankees take on the Boston Red Sox. Welcome to Fort Lauderdale. Bob Carpenter and Dave Campbell. Umbrellas and media guides, the most important commodities around here this year. Because of all the player movement, it does really take a program, Dave, to track everybody. Wade Boggs certainly at the forefront of all that player movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill Clinton ran on the idea of change, and I think Major League Baseball is following suit. 339 guys this year that finished with teams last year, no longer with those teams. Red Sox finished 13th in runs scored, so they went out and got some hitters. Andre Dawson and Ivan Calderon. Yankees on the other side of the coin finished 12th in pitching, so they went out and got Jimmy Key and Jim Abbott. But as you mentioned, they also got Wade Boggs, a guy who, it wouldn't be the curse of the Babe again, would it? Lightning couldn't strike twice.
Maybe this will reverse the curse of the Babe. Of course, they finished last year with him. They let him go. Earlier today, he met with his ex-manager. Now he meets with Peter Gammons.
Wade, this is your first time facing the Red Sox in a Yankee uniform. What does it mean to you?
Basically, it's like facing any other team. I don't have any added butterflies or any added adrenaline going today or anything like that. I'm a member of the Yankees, and we're just playing another team. The guys over here have made me feel so welcome. Not only the players, but the front office, and it's made the transition very smooth. I had some reservations about coming over here and walking into the clubhouse and wondering how guys are going to react to me and things like that. But they've been more than warm and have accepted me very well. So I'm looking forward to this year.
A lot of reporters had reservations at Wade Boggs' locker today as he gets set to take on his ex-teammates, the Red Sox, visiting the Yankees. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball, Red Sox Yankees, is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. Yankees taking the field here at Fort Lauderdale Stadium, their longtime spring home. We've had some rain showers today. Weather looks okay for the moment as we knock on wood and check the Red Sox starting lineup. They're hitting .291 this spring. The center fielder leading off is Bob Zupsik. Tim Naring, the rangy former shortstop, is at second base. Carlos Quintana is back, and he's at first. Over from the Cubs is Andre Dawson in the cleanup spot playing right field. Wade Boggs' successor, Scott Cooper, at third, with John Valentin taking over at shortstop. Greg Blosser plays left field and bats seventh. Catcher DHing today, Bob Melvin, and the regular catcher batting ninth is the veteran Tony Pena.
Right-hander Bob Wickman bidding to make this starting rotation for the New York Yankees. He's in the hunt for the 5 spot. There's his numbers after being recalled from Columbus last year. He was also 12-5 in AAA. Hard sinker, good slider. Had an accident when he was 2 years old, cut off part of his finger. It turned out to be a blessing as far as his pitching. He can't throw a ball straight. The ball moves all over the place.
Right-hander who features the fastball slider change combination. Say the fastball will sink or sail. And he's got a New York defense behind him that has improved definitely with the addition this year, Dave Campbell, of Paul O'Neill. But he won't be playing right field like he was in Cincinnati.
Kind of surprising that O'Neill's going to play left. He had 37 assists the last 3 years, but he moves over to left. That's the toughest place to play at Yankee Stadium. That is left field. So O'Neill's in left. Bernie Williams patrols pretty well in center. Danny Tartabull, he's good on offense. He's in right. Wade Boggs, Randy Velarde, Pat Kelly. Kevin Moss spells Don Mattingly at first today. Matty Noakes, kind of a sore spot with the Yankees. He's got a nice bat, but had a tough time throwing last year. The Yankees would like to upgrade their defense at the catching spot. Buck Showalter very aware of that.
And Peter Gammons, a lot of folks making a big deal out of the fact the Yankees tied Cleveland for 4th in the East last year, and the Red Sox were last, but there were really only 3 games between these clubs in the standings.
Well, I think, Bob, I think the reason people are so optimistic about the Yankees is, first, they really addressed the need of the 2 left-handed pitchers, Key and Abbott. They only had 24 starts, won 8 games from left-handers last year. Getting O'Neill, you've got to be left-handed in that ballpark, and that's been their history. They've always had a Guidry or a Whitey Ford, and the last time they won, they had 4 left-handers in the starting rotation.
Even the manager has to check the media guide to get straight with all the personnel and all the changes we've had since the Blue Jays clinched the World Series back in October.
Well, George Steinbrenner says he loves the work habits of Buck Showalter, but it's a little late to be looking in the media guide when the first pitch is coming.
First man to step in, Bob Zupsik, a .276 hitter last year, and he's having a good spring so far with a batting mark of .349.
Peter, how long has it been since the Red Sox have had a quality leadoff man? Don DiMaggio?
It really goes back to Tommy Harper in the early 70s, and this year, this is the best athlete on the team. He is the best runner.
Pitch down low. He went to get it. Grounder out to Velarde. Randy charges and throws him out on the run for the first out. Yankees are concerned about the left side of their infield defense. In fact, there's talk that that grass at Yankee Stadium might be pretty high this year. We're not talking about a defensive team, guys, with a whole lot of range.
Well, especially with Jimmy Key and Jim Abbott, a couple of guys that throw a lot of ground balls to right-handed batters. Wade Boggs and Spike Owen, if he's playing there, are both very sure-handed, but they don't have great range. You're right. The grass may be a pasture.
Boggs looks in as Tim Nearing steps in. Wickman missing low and away to the rangy infielder at second base. Didn't get much done for the Red Sox last year in 72 ball games, covering 186 at bats. Goes the other way this time, and in front of Danny Tartabull, it falls foul.
Peter, the Red Sox, and I know talking to you, said that they feel they're going to have a pretty good baseball team this year, but I sure see a lack of speed as I look around both the infield and outfield, and it's something Butch Hobson, the club only stole 44 bases last year, and I don't see him improving on that much this year.
Well, I think the anticipation puts all the more pressure on Hobson. It was even suggested the opening day of spring training that he is about to get fired, and I think it's really difficult for him. There's a lot of anticipation in the front office. There's not a lot of defense on this club at all. The lack of speed, as you mentioned, I really think that he, more than any manager in baseball, is on the hot seat with people like Whitey Herzog and Bobby Valentine out there and available.
A ball and a strike to Nearing. Wickman misses up high. Red Sox, of course, a lot of injuries last year to go along with the poor defense. They led the major leagues in unearned runs given up. Good breaking ball there, 2-2. And the defense didn't get much better early in spring training. Sox made 11 errors their first 10 spring games.
Pretty good looking slider from Wickman right there. Late break.
That's the key to the slider, and the 2-2 pitch coming. And this one misses low and inside. Ehring's been bothered by a right shoulder injury during the spring. Wickman hasn't worked too much. Only his 6th inning of work he's entering, with this his 3rd outing. And he catches the inside corner for the strikeout.
Well, Wickman's got a very hard sinker that just keeps boring in, and Ehring jumps back. I know, Peter, I was talking to you before the game today, and we keep hearing about Babe Ruth, of course, being sold, one of the worst deals in the history of mankind. But how about the deal that brought Bob Wickman, Melito Perez, and a youngster by the name of Domingo John over to the New York Yankees for Steve Sachs? That may loom as one of the worst ever.
Well, they think that Domingo John might be better than Brian Taylor for some perspective.
That's quite a statement.
He has got one of the great arms in baseball, and he might well be here by September. That's 3 starting pitchers for a second baseman. Not bad.
And of course, it's good for the Red Sox to be Carlos Quintana back. .295 hitter 2 years ago. Unable to play at all during the '92 season. Low and outside, 2 balls, no strikes. Carlos, always a good hitter, doesn't always hit for a lot of power. A .357 mark with 3 RBIs so far this spring.
Maybe the Yankees had one good trade coming their way, because they certainly gave away a few great young prospects over the years. Guys like Freddie McGriff, people like that. Jose Rio.
Up the middle. And to his left, Velarde. It's a slow track out there because of this morning's rain, but he got there in time to throw him out, and the Red Sox go 1-2-3 against Bob Wickman. We'll check Wade Boggs and the Yankees coming back. Yankees coming up in the bottom of the 1st inning. They're hitting .263 in the spring, and in 18 ball games they've hit 10 home runs already. They've got a good speed guy up at the top of the lineup. In center field is Bernie Williams, followed by Wade Boggs, who could excel in that number 2 role. Don Mattingly, the DH today. We all know about him, but he's been down the last couple of years. Danny Tartabull, a streaky RBI man, followed by Paul O'Neill, who will protect him in the lineup. Matt Noakes, the catcher. He's the number 6 guy, with Kevin Moss to follow. Randy Velarde, the shortstop, and Pat Kelly, the second baseman, batting 9th.
Right-hander Nate Minchey, 6'7", 210-pounder out of San Antonio, 23 years old. And like Wickman, came in a trade. Nate Minchey came over in a deal that sent Jeff Reardon down to the Atlanta Braves, one that didn't turn out so well for the Atlanta Braves during the 1992 World Series. Originally signed by the Expos back in 1987. Nate Minchey.
He's only had 1 game and 2 innings of work in the spring. And Bernie Williams, his numbers from last year, pretty good on base average. And he takes one high in the air that the flag and the wind blow over toward the left side, and so it's handled out there by Greg Blosser, who's playing left field. The mixed reaction we expected when Wade Boggs stepped in. Five times a batting champion, 8 times an all-star. And the ex-skipper has the outfield swung around to the left. He knows how to play this guy defensively. But Peter, what about hitting at Yankee Stadium? Will it be totally different now for Wade Boggs?
Well, I think he'll make some adjustments. He thinks it can be a positive because the outfielders will be playing deeper. There'll be more of a shot in left field.
This one to the left side and scooped up by Scott Cooper, the man who replaces him at the hot corner. 2 down.
Well, the word on Cooper is he goes very well to his left. Has some problems going to the backhand side, but he was going to his good side. Looks like the track's a little risky out there right now. It's very slow. You can see him slipping. Had an awful lot of rain in the South Florida area, but Cooper, with a great arm, once he gets on track, throws a strike to Quintana.
That's that turfus compound they put out there on top of the dirt. It lightens the color of the infield considerably, and it also lightens the load as far as mud sticking to the cleats. Ground crew doing a lot of work. No batting practice before this one today. And Don Mattingly takes a fastball in there. Tartabull will both be helped by the presence of Paul O'Neill this year, especially against right-handers.
Thought the interesting note on Boggs at Yankee Stadium, he's hit 132 over the last 3 years at Yankee Stadium, 8 for 59. Sometimes those stats don't mean an awful lot, but compared to what he's done at Fenway throughout his career, with the exception of last year, going into 1991, Boggs had hit 381 lifetime at Fenway. Last year it was something like 243. But he's got to bounce back this year. First time since 1976 in the minors that he didn't hit 300.
This one well hit to the right side. A big hop for Tim Nearing. And the Yankees, like the Red Sox, go 1-2-3 with a couple of ground balls. First inning in the scorebook. Andre Dawson set to lead off when we come back. Nothing like a trip to the ballpark at spring training with Dad. Probably the best chance to get close to the players that a young fan will have throughout the season. And here in Fort Lauderdale, the spring home of the New York Yankees, we'll get ready for the top of the second inning as Bob Wickman, after working through a 1-2-3 first, will face Andre Dawson to lead it off. The Hawk, a .289 hitter during the spring after last year's .277 with the Cubs. And this one to the inside corner for strike one. Natural surface at Fenway has to be a big help to this guy. Of course, he had the same type surface at Wrigley Field, but more of the National League parks have the artificial stuff than in this league.
I haven't talked to the Yankee personnel, but over in Chicago they talked about Dawson's dedication, how he would come to the ballpark 4 or 5 hours even before batting practice to get his knees ready to play every day.
And he's never been too shy about going after those high pitches with the old tomahawk swing. That one back to the screen, a ball and 2 strikes.
There were those last year that thought maybe that high fastball that Dawson had feasted on for so many years was starting to catch up with him. You get that ball about belt high to Dawson, he'll still drive it, but if you got the good stuff upstairs, he's not catching up with that pitch anymore.
Good breaking ball low and away. Wickman baiting the hitter. And the count goes even at 2-2. Little number goes foul.
Dawson, one of those guys who doesn't take too many walks. 1987, he had 49 home runs. He had 32 walks. Last year, he went to June 7th before he got his first base on balls of the year that was not intentional. So you're not going to walk this guy too many times.
Dave, I don't think he's going to have much problem going over to the American League and adjusting to the breaking ball, because Fenway Park, he's such a dead pull hitter. All his homers from left field. I think he's going to be able to hook that breaking ball as Maris did in New York.
Well, that one was too far outside to hook or to reach. Strikeout number 2 for Bob Wickman. He's retired 4 straight.
Boy, he has an explosive slider right now. I think Kurt Bavacqua used to call that a turbo slider. I mean, that thing is breaking very late and down quickly.
Wickman's basically been throughout his career a fastball slider pitcher. He gets a fastball for a strike there to Scott Cooper. Cooper off to a slow start. Pretty good numbers last year when he played 123 games, 337 at bats, but he's hitting only 132 this spring.
That was Wickman's third pitch there, the changeup. He wasn't even close.
That's the one they're working on, and he's having a tough time adjusting because he's been a power pitcher throughout his young career. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Wickman got inside on the left-hander, and a foul ball, says Ken Kaiser, down the first base side. We just saw, of course, Andre Dawson with the leadoff strikeout, and one of the new Red Sox, and some pretty significant names on that list, Dave Campbell.
Really are. Jose Melendez, Scott Bankhead, and Jeff Russell really figured to give them an improved bullpen. That was one of their albatrosses last year. They finished 12th in the league in bullpen. Ivan Calderon is going to have to be the DH, though. Both of his shoulders are bad. Scott Fletcher probably will be the second baseman.
1-2 pitch, a hard slider, and another strikeout. And then, of course, the dear departed, and Wade Boggs heads that list of big names.
Yeah, guys like Jack Clark, Phil Plantier. Tom Bernansky last year won the Red Sox Triple Crown. He had 266 with 15 homers and 74 RBIs, and that in itself tells you how bad the Red Sox offense was last year to lead the club in all three categories with that low of numbers.
John Valentin takes one down the left side, chased by O'Neill, and he'll have to play it on the hop down in the corner. And it's a 2-out double by John Valentin, the first base hit of the game.
Look on Valentin, first ball fastball hitter. He didn't disappoint. He doesn't handle the breaking pitch very well, but he can turn on the fastball.
Pretty good extension as he took it right down the left field line. Boy, Peter, what an adjustment coming up for Paul O'Neill to move from right field in the National League to left field at Fenway.
Well, I think they think he's such a great athlete that covering all that territory in Yankee Stadium won't bother him at all. And this way they can use both Gerald Williams and Tartabull in right field, and they won't screw up the outfield at all.
And then, of course, you got a couple of trips into the other crazy ballparks of the league. Fenway, a place that could be a nightmare for opposing players. Greg Blosser, 22 home run men at the AAA level last year, hitting 273 without a home run or an RBI this spring. Well, he's really got that breaking ball located well so far.
This kid Blosser, #1 draft choice of the Red Sox back in '89. And Peter, I noticed last year he hit 22 home runs in AA in New Britain, but 17 on the road. And you were telling me earlier about when Jeff Bagwell played there.
He said it was the best training he ever had to play in the Astrodome. The ball just doesn't travel at all there.
0-2 pitch. Goes with the fastball and misses down low.
Is it true the Red Sox definitely thought Scott Cooper was a better prospect than Bagwell?
They did at the time. Cooper had already gotten to AAA and had a big year in A-ball the year before, and they looked at some of Bagwell's numbers in New Britain and got badly fooled.
Fastball. Hitter was able to turn on that one and fouling it into the bullpen.
Maybe in the same vein out west, the Oakland A's are going to try Troy Neal as their DH this year. He had 351 last year, but he did it in Tacoma. That is not supposed to be a hitter's park. That's the one thing that really is impressive to the Oakland A's. Whereas Edmonton, where some of those guys from the Angel organization keep putting up good numbers, that definitely is a hitter's park up there. But they said Tacoma is really not a hitter's park at all, and Neal had 351.
Sometimes it's an easier adjustment for a hitter to the big leagues when he's played in the tough pitchers leagues like the Eastern League and the International League. He played in the Texas League and the Coast League. It's a whole different thing. You're used to hitting 340, 350. The adjustment period is usually longer than.
Runner in scoring position, 2 outs. 1-2 to Blosser, and he takes it up the middle. Bernie Williams charges as the runner Valentin's around third. The throw home is not in time, and the Red Sox have the lead. Greg Blosser with his first RBI of the spring. It comes on a 1-2 pitch with 2 outs.
One thing I'm sure Red Sox fans like to see is that aggressive base running, because they don't get to see an awful lot of that. Red Sox were better last year at going from first to third, but Valentin on a perfect throw from Bernie Williams still able to score because he had a good lead at second base and there were 2 outs. But so often the Red Sox have been known as a station-to-station team, but with a club like they have right now that's not going to hit a ton of home runs, they got to be better base runners.
So a pair of 2-out hits, and the Red Sox have the lead. Bob Melvin steps in and fouls the first one to the Yankee dugout.
Red Sox went from 213 home runs back in 1977. They had 187 home runs in '87, went down to 84 homers last year. So this is no longer a home run hitting franchise, and they're slow, but you still can be decent base runners if you're intelligent.
Left side to Boggs. He goes the short way to Pat Kelly for the force out. And the Red Sox get a run on 2 hits. They strand a runner and lead 1-0 middle second. Bottom of the second inning underway here in Fort Lauderdale. Danny Tartabull has swung through a Nate Minchey fastball for strike 1. Tarnable off to a .250 start here in the spring. Got a lot of those RBIs in bunches last year. And he went upstairs to fail to reach that one. Strike two. Not a whole lot of reason to pitch to this guy at various times last year either. Paul O'Neill hitting behind him will be a big help. And the count goes even 2-2.
The knock on Tarnable is he has not had a 500 at bat season since 1988. You got to have a good fourth outfielder because he's going to miss an average of 35 to 45 games a year.
He's been one of the most encouraging players in spring training. He's in the best shape of his career. He's been asking to play extra innings in spring training games, and he seems obsessed with trying to play those 140 games.
On a 3-2 pitch, a towering fly ball out to left center. Zubcic will stay with it. Battles the sun along with the breeze and has to just about pick it off the top of his knee on that one. It is a treacherous outfield today with the high sky, the glare, and the wind.
No glasses for Zubcic. I'm sure Butch Hobson will have a little chat with him there. The sun's been behind the clouds most of the time, but it seemed to pop up right at the last second. And of course, battling the wind. Peter, I read where Gene Monahan, the trainer of the Yankees, was Tarnable came to him and wanted some kind of off-season program. So evidently he must have followed through.
He's very serious. Either that or he would just as soon stay out of George Steinbrenner's fire.
Paul O'Neill has jumped into the fire at Yankee Stadium. Batting average down, so were the power numbers last year. But he's an outstanding outfielder, even though he's changing positions. Made only one error in right field for the Reds last year. And as recently as '91, he had 29 home runs. It's only .314 down the line at Yankee Stadium.
Played with a bad wrist most of last year. It was kind of a mysterious thing. They really couldn't diagnose it. He just got sawed off there.
Minchie took it right out of his hands. And over to Quintana for the second out. Well, we've got our base cam hooked up here today. That's where Ken Kaiser is patrolling as far as the umpiring goes. And see the little dots on the corners of the bag. One of our cameras points back in toward home plate. The other one points out toward second base, and there's a runner taking off.
Hey, that was in the top of the second, the force play to end the inning. You look at the turf there with that composition on there, it looks like the surface of the moon. But base cam, we got it hooked up at first and second, so hope get you some interesting shots today.
Base is empty, 2 outs, and Matt Noakes steps in. Minchie pours in the fastball.
Peter, I haven't heard too much about Minchie this spring, but he certainly looks impressive.
Well, they hope that he can go to Pawtucket and get some innings in, and eventually maybe be a candidate for the 4th or 5th starter job. They have not produced young pitchers for a few years. That's what they're looking for when they made the Reardon deal.
0-2 pitch, and he's getting inside on those left-handers. Minchie knocks it down and has plenty of time to make the play. And on a fly ball and 2 grounders in the second, he's out in order. He's retired 6 in a row, and the Red Sox lead 1-0. Well, I think that shot just about summarizes what spring training's been like in Florida. Fans sitting in the sun, but in the distance, some ominous looking clouds as we play on the east coast of Florida here. Yankees take to the field in the third, and they feature some new names. And boy, Dave, they have really improved that pitching staff.
Jim Abbott and Jimmy Key, the last 2 years, have finished the top 8 in the major leagues in lowest earned run average. So they definitely upgraded their starting pitching. Last year it was kind of Melito Perez and not a lot else. So they've really improved their starting pitching. Spike Owen, I don't know about that deal. Randy Velarde played very well the second half. Wade Boggs, of course, looking to rebound, and O'Neill gives them a good left-handed bat in the outfield.
And a footnote on Yankee pitching. George Steinbrenner could have a great staff if Mike Witt comes back fully. Right now he's nursing a pulled groin muscle. They said he was throwing in the low 90s last week before he hurt himself covering first base. Tony Pena leads off for the Red Sox in the third. Tony starting his 13th major league season. And the hook got him there. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Bob, I know spring training numbers don't mean an awful lot, but I just looked at the updated statistics. The Baltimore Orioles starting today had a team ERA of 1.74 this spring, so they're getting some pretty good pitching in the early going.
It's bad news for the rest of the AL East. Buck Showalter's team expected to be a possible contender. Have to sort of wait and see what happens north of the border, Peter. Toronto's made so many changes.
Yeah, the thing that's so difficult to judge about the Blue Jays is their pitching staff. It's so hard to know what they're going to get out of Morris and Stewart, and they've really got some holes to fill. They really don't have a 5th starter. Once again, it's going to be, are they going to go out and get a Candiati or a Cone?
1 ball, 2 strikes to Pena, low and outside. And how will Dwayne Ward react to being the full-time closer now? There won't be a Dwayne Ward to get it to the 9th inning.
They're going to miss those 113 innings a year that he's been throwing. Although Mike Timlin has had a great spring, and he's got stuff pretty close to Ward's.
Yeah, 2 years ago when Timlin went north, he had explosive stuff, then hurt his arm. It's taken him a while to come back.
Pena no trouble laying off that pitch, even though he's a free swinger.
He can feel bunts, though.
Yes.
All the Blue Jay fans in the world are happy that he can.
I'll say this, I do think the Blue Jays will score more runs than he did last year. I think having Molitor between Alomar and Carter will make that a great offense.
Bob Zupsick on deck as Pena fouls a 3-2 pitch.
I think Derek Bell's going to fill in. Will they miss Maldonado that much, or do you like Bell?
I like Bell. I think that they figured that at this point in his career, to keep gambling on Maldonado every year, they had to give Bell a chance. They're giving Sprague a chance. I mean, so much depends on Olerud, Sprague, and Bell in the middle of that order, but I wouldn't be surprised to see all of them knock in from 75 to 90 runs.
3 balls and 2 strikes to the leadoff man in the 3rd. Wickman goes away, and that's the way Pena fouls it.
I'll tell you, there may be some catchers getting Blue Jay-itis, looking at Devon White and Robbie Alomar and Paul Molitor. Those guys can all run. Even though Molitor's 36, he'll still steal you 35 to 40 bases a year if he stays healthy.
He'll probably go on artificial turf now and have a healthy year. Here's the 3-2 again. And a comebacker. Wickman will throw out Pena for the first out in the 3rd. Ladies are in action this weekend at Moon Valley in Phoenix, and there's the leaderboard. 3 players within a stroke of the lead entering the 3rd round. The LPGA Tour Standard Register Ping coming up next around 4 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. In fact, speaking of Phoenix, Dave Campbell just came from there, and Dave, you feel the Arizona ball clubs are way ahead of the Florida ball clubs in terms of preparation because they've had ideal weather.
They really have. The first week or so, the teams were over there. There was a lot of rain, but once the spring training schedule began, I mean, the clouds were over for one night, and the rest of the time, it has been nothing but sunshine the last 2.5 weeks in Arizona, playing a lot of split squad games. Teams are really getting their work in, where they're having to scramble down here in Florida because of the weather conditions.
Not so in Arizona. Golf later, baseball for now. Top of the 3rd, 1 out. Bob Zupsick back to the top of the order for the Red Sox. He grounded his short his first time up.
Real key, though, is going to be as we get to the final 2 weeks right here before the season starts, and the season begins 2 weeks from Monday. If Florida has good weather during that time, the other teams can catch up, so there won't be that much of a difference.
2-1 pitch hit out to short again. Randy Velarde waiting for it. 2 down. We mentioned the Yankee pitchers a moment ago and the possibility of Mike Witt being a major contributor after not pitching last year. Your thoughts on that, Five?
Well, what I heard today from a pretty good source with the Yankees was that Witt will probably begin the season down here in Florida in an extended spring training because they're not going to rush this groin thing, but they think he's back from the arm injury. So I think Militello will move into that spot, and Wickman, I think, is on the verge of winning the 5th spot today. But Witt will stay in Florida a little bit extra, probably be ready by April 15th.
Tim Nehring stepping in. Wickman's looked good so far. Hasn't walked a hitter, has fanned 3. And everybody else he's retired have been on ground balls. And the Yankees have a solid bullpen. We're expected to possibly see John Habian, Neil Heaton, who's had a good spring, and a young non-roster player, Francisco De La Rosa, today. Of course, they have Steve Howe and Steve Farr, dual closers. Rich Monteleone, who can swing both ways, middle, long relief.
Now the Yankee bullpen, they really suffered last year after Howe went down. He left the 8th of June, and really after that, Yankee bullpen really didn't pitch well. Farr did, nobody else did after that.
They had an earned run average of 4.68 the second half of the season. More than a run a game worse than the first half. Ball and 2 strikes to Tim Naehring. Bases empty, 2 outs. He offered at it, laid off the low and outside pitch, ball 2.
They do have some wild cards in this bullpen, too. If Witt comes back, say, by about the 20th of April, they could put Wickman in the bullpen. They have a kid named Bobby Munoz, 6'8", off the Puerto Rican basketball team in 1988, who has got great stuff, and they're converting him to closer in Columbus. They think he could help by June or July.
And the 3-2 pitch.
Well, we got Munoz highlighted because he's going to be sent out, or has been, but look for him to come back. Jeff Johnson, I think, is a long shot to make it. Maybe Neil Heaton instead of Jeff Johnson. Jeff Johnson's really struggled.
Yeah, Heaton's had the big spring. And the Red Sox have their third base runner of the day as Bob Whitman walks one for the first time. Tim Naehring down to first base with 2 down, and Carlos Quintana due up.
It was a pretty good at bat by Naehring. Wickman really didn't give him a good pitch to hit in the entire sequence. He fought off some very tough pitches under the hands, but drew a walk. Sometimes, you know, that's a moral victory when that pitcher works you as well as Wickman did there.
Quintana grounding to short his first time up. And of course, Peter, as we see Quintana step in, we think about Mo Vaughn. Now that Carlos is back, will that light a fire under Mo? I know he's had a good spring so far.
Well, the main reason Mo's had a great spring is his relationship with Mike Easler. Mo tried to pull the ball too much after he came up and hit one gigantic home run in Baltimore. He is a hitter very much like Mike Easler, and has had a sensational spring, going using the entire field, listening to other people, and now it's really in a situation where Quintana's going to probably play. Now they don't know really what they're going to do with Mo.
Here's what they've done so far. 7 RBIs, 4 RBIs for Vaughn with a home run. Quintana, of course, not a power hitter.
I think the Red Sox found out last year just how much they miss Carlos Quintana, though, because this guy is a great situational hitter. The 1 year he played, his last full year, this doesn't sound like much, but he was third in the American League in advancing runners with outs. That means putting the ball in play and getting men moved up even when he makes out.
And this grounder will get a man forced at second base. Naehring out there. And the Red Sox leave their second runner of the day, but they've scored a run, and after 2.5, they lead 1-0. Bottom of the third inning underway at Fort Lauderdale. Ball 1 to Kevin Moss. Nate Minchie misses up and away again, 2-0. Kevin Moss sort of lost in the shuffle now for the Yankees. They've got a lot of good left-handed hitters, especially with O'Neill coming aboard.
Kevin's got one thing going for him, though. The inside word is the boss likes him. That always helps when the boss likes you.
2 balls and a strike. Busted his bat and singles out into center field. That's the first base hit of the day for the Yankees.
Got the arms extended, but the ball still got in on him a little bit. Let's see what it looks like from down below as Moss takes his turn. Kevin actually looked fast there. That's a little deceiving. Moss is saying, yeah, I really like Kevin Moss. You know, I mean, you know, now that I'm back, I really like him. I like that kid.
From first base to the boss. And it's Randy Velarde stepping in. There's a guy who's hung around the organization for a number of years. Really played well when called upon last year. He's having a good spring, hitting .345.
Very versatile last year. Played 6 different spots. Shortstop, I guess, his natural position.
And also the Yankees feel that there are times he'll be able to play a little bit out in left field as well.
Strange deal of the winter to me as far as the Yankees. Randy Velarde, the second half of the season, had 33 RBIs in 41 games, played a solid defensive shortstop, and then they went out and got Spike Owen, who is a journeyman, and I didn't understand that one.
Randy got fisted that time and fouled it back to the right. No balls and 2 strikes. So Velarde's a versatile guy who can help in a lot of different areas. And he could play some left field if Paul O'Neill doesn't improve his .215 lifetime batting average against left-handed pitching.
See O'Neill looking down at that hand. He really got jammed, and again he had a bad wrist hand last year after getting jammed a couple of times. Keep an eye on that as he bats again today.
Gerald Williams, another young right-handed hitter who could play left field if O'Neill can't get it done. There we go to base cam, and you check the leadoff of Kevin Moss. Ooh, and that one high and tight on Velarde, and he goes down hard.
Boy, right in the hand. It really hurts when you got your hand on that bat and you get drilled.
Yankee trainer Gene Monahan checking that one out. The way hitters dive in these days. Pitchers work inside. Tough to get out of the way. And Dave, we've seen a lot of this the last couple of years.
Very much like Ryne Sandberg when Mike Jackson hit him. Didn't recognize the pitch till the last second. Ball tailed in a little bit. But hitters are really taught the hitting theories these days to kind of stand off the plate and dive in and don't give when that pitch starts towards you. And as a consequence, sometimes you get a lot of hand injuries. Velarde appears to be okay. He's not even looking down at it. That's a good sign.
Nobody out. 2 aboard for Pat Kelly. We talked earlier about that Yankee infield defense. I think the best scenario for them is if Pat Kelly can play second base because he makes them much better defensively.
Absolutely. Look for the bunt here. Kelly's an excellent bunter, and it's a sacrifice situation.
Cooper in close at third. Pitch was up high, and Pena, who loves to throw the ball around, a little late down to John Valentin.
Well, we've talked about it a lot before, but when you're the runner at second base in this situation, you want to be aggressive because on a decent bunt you want to make third. But if you get too aggressive, especially if there's a pitch right down the middle and the guy bunts through it, you can really get hung out to dry. Moss had a good lead. He was about 2 steps and a dive from getting back, so that was a good lead by Moss right there. But it's going to have to be a good bunt because he doesn't have good speed.
1 ball, no strikes. He's swinging and he pops it up. Carlos Quintana, and he runs out of room right in front of the Yankee dugout.
Kelly trying to take a shot to right field, and Peter Gammons was talking to Wade Boggs earlier, and at one time Kelly kind of fancied himself as maybe a potential power hitter, and Boggs got a hold of him this winter and said, look, Pat, you're going to be a lot more valuable if you can just put the ball in play, hit it the other way. You can see him taking a shot to right field there, but he inside out of it and hit a pop-up. Let's see if the Yankees go back to the bunt here.
Red Sox gave a look like they were going to wheel with Valentin headed over toward third base before Minchie stepped off.
Well, that's also a play. Sometimes you just put a play on where you want the pitcher to back off to see if maybe Kelly will give it away whether he's bunting or not. It looked like he was shortening up on the bat a little bit, but that could have been a ploy by Kelly once he saw Minchie back off too. So the wheels are turning.
1 ball, 1 strike, 2 on, nobody out. He's bunting now, and it's a good one. Fielded by the pitcher, and a tough play at second base by Tim Nearing. The second baseman, of course, over to first base, and he had to hang in there with the ball crossing the base and the runner coming right at him.
I tell you what, that took a lot of guts by Tim Nearing to hang in. You're really exposing your body, but he knew he had to make the play. Great bunt by Kelly. Minchie throws it up and in, and watch how Nearing just exposes his body. I mean, he's got to make the play, but he knows he's going to get crunched as well. I know a lot of second basemen in this situation will kind of olay it and just let it go down the right field line, but Nearing hung tough.
And a lot of possibilities here for the Yankees. Bernie Williams can fly. He steps in with runners at second and third, nobody out. excuse me, 1 out now after the sacrifice. Boggs to follow.
This will be a good day for the Yankees to use the contact play, although Moss doesn't run well, but the infield's playing back, and plus it's a slow track. If Bernie Williams could hit it on the ground and Moss is off at the crack of the bat, that might allow him to score. Contact play is simply taking a calculated risk that nobody's going to hit a line drive to one of the infielders. You just are thinking go, 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 and the minute the bat hits the ball, you break towards the plate. Then if it's a fly ball, you go back and tag up, but otherwise if it's a ground ball, you keep coming to the plate.
And Minchie unable to get that one in there.
Notice Colorado Rockies with Don Baylor and of course Don Zimmer, one of his coaches. That's one of his favorite plays. They've used that a lot this spring, trying to beg, borrow, and steal a run now and then. Not a bad play at all.
2 balls, no strikes to Bernie Williams, who flied to left his first time. Moss led off with a base hit. Velarde was hit by a pitch, and Pat Kelly moved them along with a bunt. And it's up the middle. It'll drive home a run as Naring fields it and throws on to Quintana. Kevin Moss scores, and that ties up the game. Bernie Williams getting his 4th RBI of the spring. So the Yanks get the hit batter and then manufacture the run with the sacrifice and the grounder. And Wade Boggs steps in. They went the other way and grounded out to the third base side. First time up.
The man who looks at the first pitch the most of any player, and that's almost an annual occurrence. About 94% of the time he takes the first pitch.
Outside corner with that one.
But when you swing 6% of the time, you plant just enough of a seed in that pitcher's mind that I can't just lay a fat one in there.
Two balls and a strike. Boggs came in hitting only .233 in the spring.
Wade's one record Boggs has may go down the tubes after this. He's led the major leagues, or he's led the American League in intentional walks 6 years in a row with Don Mattingly batting behind him. I don't think that's going to happen again. That's a major league record, by the way, leading a league 6 consecutive years in intentional walks.
Balls and 2 strikes as Mattingly awaits. Runner at third, 2 down with a run home here in the third. And Pena had to go backhand to reach that one.
Tony won a Gold Glove back in 1991, and I'll tell you, a lot of people around Boston credit him for the great work by particularly Clemens and Viola last year. The starting staff of the Red Sox led the American League with the lowest earned run average, and this guy gets a lot of credit.
3-2 pitch hit to the right side. And a scoop for Naring, who figured in all 3 batters retired in that inning. But on the single, the sacrifice, and the RBI grounder, now the game is tied. Top of the 4th inning in Fort Lauderdale, the home of the Yankees. Red Sox and the Yanks are all tied up. Boston's out hit New York 2-1 through 3. Andre Dawson, Scott Cooper, and John Valentin for the Red Sox in the 4th. Bob Carpenter along with Dave Campbell and Peter Gammons at Fort Lauderdale Stadium.
Leading off the top of the 4th inning for the Red Sox, throwing fielder number 10, Andre Dawson.
Andre Dawson struck out swinging his first time. Bob Wickman had a streak in the first 2 innings when he struck out 3 of 4 hitters. He got roughed up a bit after that with a John Valentin double, a Greg Blosser single, and the Red Sox took the lead. Those fly balls aren't going anywhere in this ballpark the way the wind's been blowing here the last few days. Bernie Williams put it away for the first out.
Well, the Hawk sitting on the verge of baseball history. The next home run will be his 400th. Sitting on 399. That's 3rd amongst active players behind Winfield and Eddie Murray. So Andre Dawson, a great career.
And Scott Cooper steps in. It'll be interesting to see how this guy does when you take him out over a full season. After he played roughly 2/3 last year, Velarde will call off Wade Boggs for the second out.
That's what everybody was talking about, speeding up games. Swing at the first pitch. 2 pitches, 2 outs. Obviously a lot better angle for Velarde to circle this. Anytime ball hit behind third, it's easier for the shortstop. Same behind first. Anytime a first baseman has to go back, it's an easier play for the second baseman because he got a better angle on it.
John Valentin doubled and scored 2 innings ago. And Wickman seemingly has found it again. Walked a man in the third after giving up those 2 hits for the run in the second. He's settled down now and retired 6 of the last 7 hitters.
Valentin got penalized. The first 2 guys swung at the first pitch. John, a first ball hitter, had to take the pitch and then chased a bad one. Took one down the middle and then chased a bad one.
0-2. And Wickman baits him with a slider low and away.
That was the book on Valentin last year. He had trouble laying off the breaking pitch. Good fastball hitter, has to learn more discipline at the plate to take that pitch.
Looks like John Habian will be the second Yankee pitcher of the day. Wickman from Green Bay. Still lives out in Wisconsin, out in Abrams. What an outstanding year he had last year. 12-5 at AAA with an ERA of under 3 in 23 starts for the Columbus Ball Club, and then with the Yankees 6-1 in 8 starts. ERA of just over 4, but he found a way to win those 6 decisions. Collective 18-6 last year. And a 1-2 pitch, and over to the left side, John Valentin 2 for 2. Now Bunbury greets him for the second time, the first base coach. And with a man aboard and 2 outs, Greg Blosser will come up. Ken Kaiser has to dance before he can call it foul. Well, this guy has some pop in his bat. Blosser with 22 home runs and 71 RBIs. 434 at bats in New Britain last year. John Valentin leading off. There's a look at it from base cam with 2 outs. Makes everybody look like they got a big lead off, doesn't it? A ball and a strike. There you can see the camera, that little dot right down in the corner of the bag. Second base out on the horizon somewhere. This one low and away, 2 balls and a strike. Blosser lays off the low breaking ball. 3-1.
Valentin taking a good lead at first base. Proper lead, especially against a right-handed pitcher, is what they call a step and a dive. If you can take 1 step and then dive back in, you should be able to beat any kind of a quick move to first. At second base, your lead should be 2 steps and a dive.
Good lead. Valentin holding as it's fouled off, and he'll be running now on a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs. It was these two that teamed up 2 innings ago when Valentin doubled after 2 were out. Blosser singled up the middle to drive him home. And here in the 4th, Valentin pulling a single to the left side. And Blosser has worked it to a 3-2 count. Bob Melvin, the on-deck hitter. Runner going. Fly ball center field. Fairly deep. Bernie Williams drifting. Can cover a lot of ground out there. And the Red Sox have stranded their 3rd runner. Game still tied, middle of the 4th. Don Mattingly leading off for the Yankees in the bottom of the 4th inning. 1-1 the score. Red Sox and the Yanks all tied up. And Mattingly lines one off the glove of Carlos Quintana. Quintana appeared to have the ball caught, and it may have sailed on him. Mattingly is on to lead off the Yankee 4th, and returning, of course, back to the ball club is George Steinbrenner. He's visiting downstairs. Peter Gammons, it's all yours.
George, are you having as much fun as you seem?
I am. I really am, Peter. It's so great to be back and to have the fans as nice as they've been. They were great yesterday in Sarasota. They were great in West Palm, and they're great to me here in Lauderdale. It's a great feeling.
What's been the best thing that you've seen in this team?
Well, I think there's a spirit in that clubhouse, and that I didn't see when I left in '90, but I see it there now, and I think we've got the experience and the youth and the balance, and we got some good young pitchers this year, which we haven't had since the 70s, as good a crop of pitching. I'm very, very excited about the team. Now, Baltimore's going to be awful tough. Toronto, I mean, they're the champs. You know, you got to beat the champs. So we got a tough race ahead of us, but this team might just surprise some people.
Are you already looking around and saying, what do we need? How can we go get it?
Oh, I think Gene and Joe Malloy and Gene Michael are doing that with their people and Buck on a daily basis. And I told them, don't come to me unless you're ready to do something and you do the preliminary work. That's where it's different than it used to be. I'm not in those discussions. When they're ready to make a move, then they will come to me.
Now, in a couple of...
That's true, Peter.
Well, what's going to happen the first time? What's going to happen the first time that Buck sends Steve Howe in there in the 9th inning and he gives up a bloop hit for 2 runs and you lose the game?
Well, nothing. I saw us get beat yesterday up there by Chicago. Although we had all minor league pitchers in there, we got beat by 4 or 5 runs, and it didn't bother me because this is spring training. When they start to count, I'll be a bit more intense, but I'm not going to. I know how I'll be. I'll never. My desire to win will never go. I mean, I can't change myself at this age, and I want to win for Yankee fans, for this team, and for the guys on the team. I just want to win, and I'll do anything I can. But I think I may go about getting to a certain place in a different way than I have in the past.
Are you encouraged when you see all the young players that this organization has developed over the last 4 or 5 years?
That's one of the things that I've noticed. We play these teams, and as everyone knows in spring training, the last 4 innings, you go with usually young kids that you want to look at. Our young kids are beating the heck out of other people's young kids. So that's a real good sign for the future. I watched your broadcast even before I was back when you said that our farm system was one of the best in the game. And I agree with you, having seen them now, because we seem to come back at the end and beat teams. And I'm very impressed with our young pitching and our young infielders and outfielders. I think it is impressive.
How do you think the people in New York are going to respond to Boggs and to Abbott and to Key, your new players?
Well, I hope the people in New York respond to Boggs in a very positive way, because he's coming down from Boston just like Babe Ruth and Sparky Lyle did, and I hope he's successful, and I think he will be one of the real steals of the free agent market this year. So I hope they respond tremendously to Wade Boggs. He's a surefire Hall of Famer, and we're just very fortunate to have him with us. And let's go like past practice, what's happened in the past when those fellas come from Boston to New York. We hope that the fans there will spur them on to the same type of feats. Now, Jim Abbott, you want to talk about Frank Merriwell or Jack Armstrong, that's Jim Abbott. And if New York doesn't take to him like ducks to water, then nobody will ever make it.
What about looking at this team now, what is the one thing that concerns you the most?
I think that we stay well. I think in this game today, it's so balanced that injuries play such a key part, and we've got to stay well. If Danny Tardo can stay well this whole year and give us a relatively full season, he can be awesome for us. And I think that's one of the major keys for us. So I'd say staying away from injuries, because in any sport, when your key men get injuries, the team suffers.
How do you look at the other? Have you seen Baltimore and Toronto at all this spring?
No, I have not. I've heard from people, and everybody says they're awesome. So our people that have seen them, other people, the writers who have talked to me about them say they're both awesome, and that Toronto's just strong as ever. So they would probably be your two favorites right now, but don't put us too far down that list.
Now, how much pressure does that put on Buck Showalter?
None. Buck's done a good job. He's done a great job. I had one of the chief of umpires say to me, Marty Springstead, the other day, how much the umpires respect Buck Showalter, and I think that's a good sign. And I think he's tremendous. He's done a great job last year, and I rode the bus back with the team yesterday. Long, tough bus ride after being in the heat all day. 4 hours, and all he did is work with that notebook all the way back.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Top of the 5th inning here in Fort Lauderdale. Bob Carpenter back with Dave Campbell, and Bob Wickman, after 4 pretty solid innings, is done. And 29-year-old right-hander John Habian takes over for New York.
Talked about the fact the Yankee bullpen suffered a bit in the second half. Habian, part of the reason his overall numbers in the season not that bad. He throws a hard sinker and 2 different sliders. Had problems with left-handed batters last year. They hit him .339 and allowed the highest batting average of any relief pitcher in the American League, .295. So he's got to bounce back for the Yankees to improve in that pen this year.
Facing Bob Melvin to lead things off. Melvin DHing today, grounded into a force play first time up. Of course, both of these guys, pitcher and hitter, with Baltimore backgrounds. Habian from the Orioles organization. Melvin made a stop there on his way from San Francisco to the American League.
Peter's back. Steinbrenner didn't get mad at you because you cut him off in the middle of the sentence.
No, it's just like we're long lost neighbors.
I was thinking, watching that, whatever he was selling, I would take 2 of today.
And the fastball misses outside, 2-1.
That's why spring training is so wonderful, isn't it? Everybody's in a great mood in the spring.
Well, one thing about it here, the last couple of years when he hasn't been around, they've had a lot of problems getting decisions made. At least this time, when it comes to the question of whether they're willing to spend the money to go out and get a key player down the stretch, the decision will be made within minutes.
But that one trade, sacks for the 3 great young pitchers, was done while he wasn't around.
That's right. Gene Michael's done a very good job in personnel over here in the last couple of years. George does say that his son Hal is the guy that got Bob Wickman thrown into the deal, however.
And Habian missing badly on a 3-2 pitch. Walks Bob Melvin to lead off the Red Sox 5th inning. Well, coming up later tonight on ESPN, the 12 Hours of Sebring. That's the Camel Grand Prix of Endurance. It's America's oldest sports car endurance race. The course is on an old airport circuit in Sebring, Florida. It's got 17 turns, and you will see the finish of the 12 hours of grueling action tonight on ESPN. Leadoff man aboard, Tony Pena, looking to bunt, and he takes ball 1. Habian can't find the plate.
Mentioned that Habian fell off a little bit last year in the second half, and also in '91 he was an excellent pitcher for the Yankees. Only allowed 9.5 runners per 9 innings. That is an excellent ratio, but last year struggled. Pena showing bunt again. We'll see if that's a deke. Sometime with a guy like Pena, that not a too bad a contact hitter and does hit the ball on the ground, you might want to fake the bunt. We take a look at the runner coming back. Step and a dive.
And they got him. They got him that time. Melvin was leaning, and Habian gave him a very quick move.
That time it wasn't a step and a dive. It was a mini crossover, and then oops, and he was a dead duck, and Kaiser rings him up. Habian with a very quick move, and Melvin took the ill-fated step towards second base and was hung out to dry.
And the next offering to Pena misses. And of course that left-handed first baseman has the mid on the right hand. The quick sweep tag after the good throw by the pitcher. The quick and accurate throw. Tony hits a one-hopper over to Wade Boggs, and quickly 2 down.
Well, I got to believe that the Red Sox had hit and run on. Pena kept deking the bunt, but again, Tony Pena is one of the most opportune ground ball hitters around. He's always in the top 15 in the league in ground balls. Plus, he's hit into more double plays than anybody else in the last 4 years. So you want to start runners with him because he's going to make contact and usually hit it on the ground.
Peter Gammons, for years the Red Sox have been waiting and waiting for Ellis Burks to become the superstar that he did not. What about this guy? Is center field in good hands?
Well, he's a better outfielder than a lot of people realize because he gets a tremendous jump on the ball. He's big, 6'3", 210 pounds, but he's a line drive hitter. He's not a power hitter, and he's finally come to grips with that. They have been looking for another center fielder. He was involved in a deal for Darren Jackson about 3 weeks ago that got broken off because the Red Sox couldn't come to a contractual agreement with Jackson. But he's an adequate defensive outfielder. The problem is he's never going to be a Burks or a Darren Jackson for that matter.
2 balls and a strike. And a fastball at the letters evens the count. Ball game in the top of the 5th inning. Red Sox got a run on 2 hits in the 2nd. Yankees a run on a hit batter, a sacrifice, and a grounder in the 3rd. And Zupsik takes it the other way for a base hit in front of Danny Tartabull.
I guess every time I think about center fielders, I remember the story about a pitching coach the Red Sox had named Larry Woodall, who went down to Birmingham, Alabama in 1949 to look at a center fielder and said, I don't think he's a Red Sox type of player. What was his name? Mays?
Mays. Well, they did get Piper Davis, though.
Must be the curse. Tim Nehring is next.
Fabian trying to get into the Tippy Martinez. Tippy one time picked off 3 runners at first base in 1 inning. Fabian already has 1 so far. I don't think he can get 3 this inning with 2 outs, though. Just back in. Boy, Fabian's quick to first, though.
Nehring 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk. Good fastball to the outside part of the plate.
Peter had a chance to talk to Mays for about a half hour. He's in the Giants camp this spring. He is just in terrific spirits. I mean, you know, at one time I thought Willie, you know, was kind of turning his back on baseball, and maybe vice versa. But geez, he was just animated, having fun. Dusty Baker's using him with the young outfielders. It really feels like a part of the deal out there.
Well, I think that's one of the things that Peter McGowan and his group tried to do with the Giants, is bring back some of those guys that comprised that tremendous team in the 60s and make them a part of the San Francisco scene. They really were outsiders the last few years, and I think it'll be great for the franchise.
No balls, 2 strikes to Nehring. Bob Zupsik at first base. He singled with 2 down. And the 0-2 pitch. Well outside. Red Sox waiting to see the real Tim Nehring. The wrist injuries last year, of course, back surgery, but he missed most of the '91 season.
And this year he's been plagued by a shoulder problem, the result of working too hard in the offseason lifting weights rather than doing a throwing program.
Don't get me started.
Red Sox, of course, have a very reliable up the middle guy in Scott Fletcher, who did a really good job in Milwaukee last year with the likes of Kevin Seitzer. Players that have been given up by other organizations, given up on, really. And over to the left side, Boggs to Kelly, and the Red Sox have stranded another runner, their fourth. We're halfway through in Fort Lauderdale, 1-1. Welcome back to Florida for the bottom of the fifth inning. On the first pitch, Matt Noakes fouls one right side. Oh, he's in the dugout. Here's George. This team's played well this spring. Yankees are 12-6. They've won 6 out of 7 right here in Fort Lauderdale. We have our umpteenth rain sprinkle of the weekend. Our first one really since the game started today. The umbrellas come out. Hard breeze blowing in off the ocean, which is several miles out beyond the right field fence.
Noakes had some interesting numbers last year. 22 homers, 18 of which were hit in Yankee Stadium. I think he likes to turn and pull.
Well, I think that stance answers that question.
Look at the raw numbers on Paul O'Neill's home runs over the last 5 years. Actually 6 since '87, including '87. 66 out of the 96 homers he's hit have been down the right field line or straight away right field. So he isn't going to be hurt by the short porch there either.
There's a fly ball to right field. Andre Dawson drifting back, and the wind knocking that one right down to him for the first out. Well, we've got a busy weekend of baseball for you here on ESPN at 12:30 tomorrow. It's over to the Twins and Kirby Puckett. Jay Bell anchoring that Pirate infield. They've lost some outstanding players from that team. It'll be up to the veterans like Bell and Van Slyke when he comes back healthy, and Jeff King, to see if the Pirates can do it again in the National League East. Pirates and Twins tomorrow on ESPN.
If they do, they're going to build a statue of Jim Leland right beside the one of Roberto Clemente.
They probably should. And of course, Kirby Puckett. Nothing much changes with him from year to year. The outstanding, consistent superstar of the Twins.
Yeah. Rod Carew one time said, it was Tony Oliva. Tony Oliva said one time if Kirby Puckett were playing in New York, they'd have a statue already of him in Times Square.
Here's a little looper out into left center. Nobody can reach it, and Kevin Moss has his second consecutive base hit. Both of those little fly balls into the outfield, but he's 2 for 2.
Like Kevin kind of inside out. This one tried to fight it off a little bit.
One on, one out. Randy Velarde drilled on the hands last time by an inside fastball. Steps in. Moss back in via base cam. Good breaking ball.
Minchie paying a lot of attention to a guy who doesn't run very much. Kevin Moss, no attempts last year.
Considered a one-dimensional player, a guy who can hit, can't run, a man without a defensive position. Playing at first base today with Mattingly DHing.
Almost looked like Moss was on his way to go. It looked like a hit and run. All of a sudden, Velarde just stepped out, took another look down at Clete Boyer.
Runner holding on 0-1. Breaking ball. And it's right in there, 0-2.
Sometimes when that runner gives it away, it's like sending out an alert to the opposition manager to pitch out. So Velarde did the smart thing. He backed out, took a look at Clete. Showalter, if he did have it on, recognized that and took the play back off.
And the fastball misses.
Minchie certainly got a nice easy motion. That fastball just kind of jumps on you.
One just about catches the plate but misses outside. 2-2.
Peter, there are those who think those kind of pitches ought to be sending a hitter back to the dugout. That's one way to speed up the game a little bit.
Well, that's something both leagues have discussed, trying to get the umpires to take the strike zone back to what it says it is in the rule book. But that's something, that battle between the union, the umpires, and the league is something that never seems to get resolved.
I thought it was kind of interesting looking at the teams that played the longest games last year. Oakland and Detroit, they were the top two teams as far as base on balls for their teams. Oakland A's had the leading on base percentage of any team in the American League. Detroit wasn't up that high, but they also were the team that walked the second most of any team in the league.
On a high breaking ball, this one taken deep to left field, and it is off the wall. A runner, Moss, around third will score, and into second with an RBI double, Randy Velarde.
Well, Velarde got a hanging breaking ball and also a good piece of base running by Kevin Moss. With one out, he spotted that this ball was definitely going to get over Blosser's head. And here's an example of a guy who doesn't have great speed. Kevin Moss still making an intelligent trip around the bases. And you see him all the way past second when that ball gets over the head. He had it sized up right away that he thought that ball was going to get over, and that allowed even a slow runner like Moss to score on the play.
At the beginning of the inning, Greg Harris was warming up for the Red Sox, and Butch Hobson goes to the mound. There's Harris, the veteran right-hander.
Velarde pays back for the hit on the wrist. Best way you can, get right back up and hit a double off the wall.
Yankees put two of those three hits together right here, and they lead it 2-1, bottom of the fifth. Randy Velarde has just collected his 7th run batted in this spring.
Velarde's a very important guy to this team in my mind. He can play the outfield. He hits left-handed pitching very well. If anything happens to Spike Owen, he plays shortstop unless they go to Robert Einhorn. And also, when Wade Boggs has to sit out a couple of games, he'll play third. He's a very important guy.
Still one out. Pat Kelly coming up, and he rifles one up the middle. Velarde makes the turn at third. They will send him. The throw is in time to get him. Pena with the shoulder tag.
Well, a case there where Zupsik certainly didn't hit the cutoff man, but he got it in the area, and that's a big out to keep the Red Sox within 1 run. And just as soon as that out's made, you see Minchie almost gets his head torn off. Zupsik comes up throwing. Ball may have been a little wet too. It may have gotten away, but he gets it all the way on the fly, and a good tag by Pena on Velarde. And right away, Butch Hobson goes to the mound to make a pitching change. Velarde taking the wide route. He was trying to go outside, and then he decided to go inside.
Well, Minchie is gone after 4 2/3, and the Yankees lead it 2-1 in the 5th. Greg Harris has just delivered his first pitch, a breaking ball for a strike to Bernie Williams. Yankees have broken out on top here in the 5th, had another runner thrown out at the plate, but lead 2-1. Pat Kelly out at second base, and Harris throws in behind him to John Valentin, but the runner, Pat Kelly, back in. Greg Harris, his 11th big league season.
Very valuable from the standpoint he's pitched short relief, long relief, and he can start. A pitcher that can adapt that well is somebody that's going to be valuable on your club.
He's always had the good breaking ball. Throw a cut fastball. Missed with it inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
If Danny Darwin's back doesn't come around and he can't open the season as a starter, there's a good chance that Harris will move into the rotation, which would really weaken their bullpen because there's a chance they're going to go without a left-hander. He's the one guy who gets left-handers out. I think 225 over the last 5 years.
So many guys, right-handers now, do better jobs of getting left-handers out. Guys like Brian Harvey. Usually it's the guys with a forkball, though. For Harris, curveball and then a tailing fastball.
4 2/3 innings for Nate Minchie. Did not walk or strike out a hitter. To this point has given up 2 runs on 4 hits. And a fastball hit to the right side for Nearing. On the run, he throws out Bernie Williams. And the Yankees are gone, but they get a run on 3 hits, lose a man at the plate, and strand one. 2-1 New York after 5. 6th inning underway in Fort Lauderdale. Rain still sprinkling. Carlos Quintana steps in. He's taken a strike. Quintana's hit the ball to shortstop twice today without success. Well, maybe 3 times. Out to Randy Velarde, 1 down.
Carlos had a whole year off to think about not going 6-3, but he's done it 3 times today. No hits there.
Solid player, though, and the Red Sox will welcome him back.
I think a very important contribution that Quintana makes is that he's one of the best defensive first basemen in the league, and that infield really suffered last year. Mo Vaughn struggled. Quintana makes a big difference to all the infielders in the way they throw.
After Quintana, Andre Dawson in the number 4 hole stepping in. And Dawson got locked up on a pitch high and inside, and Avian will throw him out easily. 2 down, and the Hawk is 0 for 3.
Peter, I know the Yankees and Red Sox don't deal an awful lot, but with that glut of middle infielders the Yankees have, do you think there's any possibility any of them could end up in Boston?
I don't think so. I think that possibly the only chance that you'll see that a middle infielder gets traded by the Yankees is if they decide that Pat Kelly wins the job and they trade Mike Gallego. But I think they're going to hold on to Stankiewicz in the middle and go with what they have.
Here, Gallego, maybe Mets, Jeff Kemp, shoulder problem.
He's had shoulder problems. And they've also been interested in Stankiewicz.
1-0 pitch to Scott Cooper, and a little comebacker. Avian covers the ground well as the rain begins to fall a little harder, but a very quick 1-2-3 inning, and the Yanks still lead middle of the 6th. Wade Boggs steps in, bottom of the 6th inning. Yankees on top of the Red Sox, 2-1 here in Fort Lauderdale, facing his ex-teammate Greg Harris, who came on to retire the final hitter in the 5th inning. And it's quickly 0-2. Boggs 0 for 3 today, but has an RBI on a ground ball, his 4th of the spring. And a breaking ball gets him on the fists. Over to the left side, Scott Cooper near that bullpen mound for the first out.
That's in the stands in Fenway Park, foul ball. Yes, he says that's one of the biggest adjustments he'll have to make is the lack of foul territory.
Boggs 0 for 3 now, and Mattingly to follow. And we had Deion James down there warming up a moment ago.
He's probably going to come on for Tartabull after this at bat by Danny. He's on deck.
And Mattingly takes one up high. Mattingly hit that liner off the glove of Quintana 2 innings ago. Later erased in the double play. Two balls, no strikes. Greg Harris remarking before the game today that the only problem with some of the pressure that's being talked about the ball club getting out of the gate well and winning early, or else the manager could be in trouble, Peter, is the fact that it sort of makes every pitch and every outing in spring training a little more urgent rather than a get loose and get your work in type of thing.
Well, I think it's a very difficult situation for the players as well as for Hobson, and the front office has done nothing to diffuse it. I mean, they've talked openly about how good the team is. They've made it very clear. Butch only has a 1-year contract, and there's a great deal of pressure on him.
Ground ball right side. Nearing throws out Mattingly, and Harris is retired 3 in a row very quickly, and he'll face Danny Tartabull now.
I'll tell you one thing, if Herzog comes in, he won't recognize this team compared to those Cardinal teams he had back in the 80s from a speed quotient.
But I do think it's a distinct possibility with all the problems they have in California. Whitey's first coaching job was for Haywood Sullivan. He's worked with Lou Gorman, and they did try to get him to take the job in August of 1991.
Tartabull the hitter. Whitey's such a take charge, let's get it done kind of guy. Boy, that certainly isn't the way things are being done in Anaheim now.
No, that's
the process is very slow out there.
Now, I think the Angels are probably one of the most confused ownership situations in baseball right now, and I think he has done a lot to improve the defense with the young players they have, but unfortunately that's not enough.
On a 2-0 pitch, Tartable skies one high in the air out behind second. Valentin will stay with it and ends up catching the ball on the right field side of second base, and it's still 2-1 Yanks. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball Red Sox Yankees is brought to you by Embassy Suites Hotels. For reservations at twice the hotel, call 1-800-EMBASSY. Welcome back to Fort Lauderdale. Trying to get his reservation to the big club confirmed is left-hander Neil Heaton, a veteran who's trying to make the club, and he's had a very good spring so far.
Really has. Throws a, what do you call it, knuckle curve? No, he's got some other name for it. Almost unpronounceable. Split knuckle curve. I don't know.
It's a survival pitch.
Whatever it is, if he does well, then the deal for maybe Paul Asemacher won't go through. But I know the Yankees want to have one more left-hander in their bullpen to go with Steve Howe.
2 balls and a strike to John Valentin. With Kansas City last year was Heaton. Worked 41 innings. And Valentin's perfect day will evidently come to an end on this one. He was 2 for 2, and Pat Kelly puts away the pop-up. Kelly's playing up the middle now with Stankiewicz at short. Randy Velarde's moved over to third base. Yankees have a new catcher in Jim Leyritz, and they have a new right fielder.
Gerald Williams goes into right. We thought Deion James was going to, but Deion was a deke. He was out playing catch with Gerald Williams.
He's out in center field. Greg Blosser steps in, 1 for 2 with an RBI single. And Heaton with that off-speed breaking ball of his.
I know it. I remember now. Screw knuckle curve. That's what it was. A screwball knuckle curve. I knew he came up with that pitch.
And this one hit out to center. James right there, 2 down. So the base is empty with 2 outs, and Bob Melvin stepping in. A ground ball and a walk for him today.
Melvin, a guy that's been around Detroit, San Francisco, Kansas City. Only got 70 at bats last year, but did hit over 300. Had another stop along the way. Called him. Didn't want to short sheet you.
Good receiver. Good handler of pitchers.
Kind of breaks the mold. They usually say you can't be tall and lean and be a catcher. Not too bad behind the plate.
Neil Heaton working quickly. After 2 good scoreless innings by John Habian, who gave up 1 hit and walked 1, in relief of Bob Wickman, who gave up the Red Sox only run on 3 hits through 4 innings. Yankees came into this spring game with a spring training ERA of 3.48. They were 12th in the league last year at 4.21.
A lot of people wondered why the Cubs were #1 in ERA a lot of last year. Chicago historically a haven for hitters, but the wind blowing very much like it is today. About 61 out of the 81 home games the Cubs had in or across, and that helped the staff.
This one rifled foul outside third. I remember Don Zimmer saying a couple of years ago that when you manage at Wrigley, you have to manage 3 different seasons. The early part of the season when it's cold and the wind blowing in, the middle of the season when it warms up and the balls can fly out, and then the latter part of the season when it can return to like it was early.
And last year it just didn't, though. September was the month that killed the Cubs pitching. They were leading the National League, 2.99 ERA, and then they had a stretch of 17 games at an ERA number near 7. I think the wind was blowing out most of the time now.
And a 2-2 to Melvin coming. He goes down to get it, flares it out into center, and here comes Bernie Williams in front of him, and a 2-out hit for Melvin.
Well, speaking of the Cubs and Asemacher, they thought by hoarding the market in left-handed relievers, they're going to be able to make some trades. Unfortunately, Asemaker's contract is so huge, over $2 million each of the next 2 years, plus a $500,000 buyout for the next year. And they're basically going around to teams saying, look, we'll pay you $500,000 to $1 million if you'll take the guy. And thus far, there have been no takers.
Tony Pena steps in. First pitch swinging. Out into left center. Stankiewicz out. O'Neill and Williams in. And Paul O'Neill will put it away. So on one hit, the Red Sox are down in the 7th. They've stranded 5, and they trail by 1. On to the bottom of the 7th in Fort Lauderdale. Yankees playing at home, where they've won 6 of 7 this spring. Lead the Red Sox 2-1. Paul O'Neill leads off. Jim Leyritz to follow, and then Kevin Moss against Greg Harris. Paul O'Neill has grounded back to the pitcher and hit into a 4-6-3 double play. And of course, Peter Gammon's the big concern with moving an outstanding fielder over to left field or to a different position is that you might weaken yourself at 2 positions where before you had an outstanding guy at 1 position.
Well, Yankee Stadium is so different because right field is so short and left field is so large that they traditionally have tried to put their best defensive outfielder in left field. They think this will work, and they think Gerald Williams is going to end up playing a lot in the outfield. And with Gerald out there, the Iceman in right, he is probably the best outfielder of the whole lot. And there's some big ballparks like Kansas City, that'll be some defensive outfield.
And a base hit to the right side as O'Neill pulled it through. Yankees have their 5th base hit of the afternoon. 3 of them came in 1 inning. That was the 5th when they took the 2-1 lead. Moss will leave, and Mike Humphreys, an outfielder, will run for him.
When they were making that deal for O'Neill, the Yankees consulted Lou Piniella, and he told Gene Michael, one of these years, O'Neill's going to hit 40 home runs, and it'll be in the next 2. So that from his manager and batting coach the last couple of years.
Here's Jim Leyritz, who just came in defensively last inning. He takes a fastball at the letters for strike 1. Leyritz a real scrapper. As you check some of the NCAA scores from this afternoon, ESPN will update you on scores throughout the day as we go from baseball to golf. Racing later tonight. We'll keep you up to date on the NCAA as they move into the first weekend. Humphreys backing easily. And 1 strikes to Leyritz, who's hitting .231 with a couple of RBIs this spring, and that's what Greg Harris can do to you with that big breaking ball of his. He'll throw it at a lot of different speeds.
You know, when he hooked up with Mike Boddicker when he came over after being released by the Phillies, Harris learned a lot about all the different angles of throwing that curveball, and he has really been one of the most valuable utility pitchers in the league ever since, and he seems to get better.
There's a breaking ball to the left side off the glove of Scott Cooper. Digging for third is Humphreys, and the Yankees will have runners at the corners with nobody out. That ball might have been fielded by the shortstop in the hole, Valentin, but Cooper, trying to cut it off, deflected that ball into the outfield. He was thinking about getting that force play at second base if he could glove it cleanly. Now the Yankees in a position to take command of the game as Kevin Moss steps in. As Valentin, the shortstop, they look like they'll still play for the double play with nobody out, runners at the corners. Moss, though, has 2 hits. Breaking ball low and inside. Two more hits in this inning for the Yankees. 6 in the game. A good play by Pena as Greg Harris bounced a breaking ball. And might have even been a sinker about 5 feet out in front of home plate. Harris has been all over the place. Mets in the National League. Phillies over there for a while. Padres. Texas. Boston. Originally was drafted by the Mets. 2-0 pitch and the fastball up and outside. Yankees on top 2-1. Runners at the corners. Nobody out. Moss had the take sign and he took a strike. 3-1.
This is a very important year for Kevin Moss in my mind. I mean, if he's going to stay with the Yankees and be the DH against right-handed pitching, he's going to have to start to put up the kind of numbers he had his rookie year, or maybe he'll move on to a team like Montreal and get a new start and show that he can play in the field and play every day.
Yeah, that's the problem. What about his defense?
Now that's a question, and there's some question about his swing, whether he really is ever going to be the type of hitter that can put up consistent numbers. He can get into a groove for a very short period of time and hit home runs, but there's been the lingering doubts about his ability to make adjustments at the plate.
3-1 pitch, ground ball right side. They'll go for the lead runner. That's all the Sox can get. Yankees score again as Humphries comes home, and Kevin Moss gets the RBI to make it 3-1. Bob Wickman was the Yankee starter today. Went 4 innings, and he's downstairs with Dave Campbell. Take it away, Dave.
Thanks, Bob. We'll get right back to the action if something big happens, but you had a nice outing today. Congratulations.
Yeah, everything was seemed to be coming together right now. My slider was probably my most effective pitch. I was having problems earlier in the season by not staying back a lot, and slider was good, and my sinker right now, my best pitch, is starting to come around. It's just a field pitch. I have to get used to it.
Of course, the interesting thing, the story on you lost part of your finger. Why don't you hold it up and show us when you were, what, 2 years old?
Yeah, I lost it when I was 2 years old. It was a little farm accident I had. My dad was right with us, my brother and I at the time, and I was a little guy that used to like to go out and get himself in a little trouble, and he was standing right next to me. And I guess before he could do anything, it was too late, and next thing we both knew it, we were rushing me to the hospital.
Maybe a blessing in disguise, though. You can't throw the ball straight.
Yeah, I guess it's a blessing in disguise. I'm real glad it happened when I was a younger kid, so I got used to throwing with it all my life, so it's really never affected me, and I seem to get a natural cut and natural sink on the ball sometimes.
Any pressure at all? You know you're in line for that 4th or 5th spot in the rotation. You look very calm and cool out there today.
Oh, I'm sure glad I look good. I was had a lot of butterflies before the game. It's a lot of pressure getting to me, starting to build up in that, and all the coaches are just saying there's nothing you can do about it. Just go out there and give it your best, and that's the way I'm feeling the rest of spring training. If I make it, I do. If not, hopefully I can work my way up here sometime throughout the year.
Yeah, Tony Kubek told me those guys from Wisconsin are tough anyway. Nice going today.
All right, thank you very much.
Bob Wickman had a great outing. Bobby, back up to you.
All right, thanks, Dave. Out of Green Bay, Bob Wickman. Today made his 3rd appearance of the spring, and now in 9 innings this year, he's only given up 1 run. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Pat Kelly with a runner in scoring position. Yankees have already scored here in the 7th. And Greg Harris misses outside, 2-2.
Pat Kelly's been a pretty good story for this team this spring. He has become a disciple of Wade Boggs. And Boggs has helped him a lot with his hitting style, trying to get him to put the ball and play up the middle into right field, stop trying to pull. Pat Kelly puts the ball on the ground and can get on base. He's a very dangerous offensive player.
Very solid defensively.
He even moved down to Florida this winter and worked with Boggs. I think the changes are noticeable. At times last year, it looked like his swing was one of those where he just could never make contact, and he's really changed.
Looks like he's taking a little mental batting practice in between pitches there. Out at second, Kevin Moss. Greg Harris set for the 2-2 pitch. Here's the breaking ball, and it's out into left center. Blosser and Zupsik converge, and Greg Blosser takes it for the final out. But the Yanks have added another, and after 7, they lead the Red Sox 3-1. On to the top of the 8th inning here in Fort Lauderdale. The Red Sox down by 2, facing Neil Heaton and the Yankees. Top of the order, Bob Zupsik will lead it off. Mike Humphreys, after pinch running, stays in the game and plays left field. In fact, he came around to score on the Kevin Moss ground ball. Zupsik went it the other way for a single his last time up. He's 1 for 3 in the afternoon. And Neil Heaton gets him on the fists. At Kelly or Moss. Kevin takes charge, takes it for the first out. Well, the ladies are in action later on today on ESPN, and in the 3rd round of the LPGA Tour Standard Register Ping, Dawn Coe-Jones has taken control. She has a 4-stroke lead on the veteran Patty Sheehan. That's coming up next, right after baseball, 4 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. They're out in Phoenix hitting the golf ball today out in the desert, where the spring training weather has been ideal. Not the same here, but well, we made it into the 8th inning today. Didn't know if we would do that. Tim Naring, the hitter, and he takes a strike. Bob Carpenter with Peter Gammons. Dave Campbell still with us. He's downstairs here at Fort Lauderdale Stadium. And there's the off-speed pitch hit over to Rick Burleson. Burleson's role has changed now with this club, with Mike Easler coming aboard.
Well, Easler has been a tremendous force. Boston's a tough town, sort of riddled with negativity. And Easler is one of the most positive people that you could ever find. He's a constant worker. I think he's done wonders with certain guys. I think he's had Mo Vaughn turned around. I think he's going to really help Valentin. He was the guy that helped Scott Fletcher turn his career back around. He got a little confused in Chicago and kind of went at odds with Walter Riniak. And Easler's one of the better guys you can find for a hitting coach, particularly in a city where players need constant positive reinforcement.
What kind of approach to hitting does Easler have? I mean, he had nicknames like the Hit Man, so I guess that would indicate that he's a guy who liked to go up there and be aggressive.
Very aggressive. But he's been very good at being able to take what each player can do. I mean, for instance, he's not going to tinker around with Ivan Calderon, who's one of the most intelligent hitters in the game. But he does go to Vaughn and try to get him back to where he was when he was a younger player, which is to drive the ball up the middle and into left center, try to use the whole field and bang it off the wall in Fenway Park. With Cooper, it's a matter of trying to get his hands be a little bit quicker. And Valentin is trying to get him to hit the ball the other way a little bit more because he has a tendency to pull too much. But the thing that he does so well is he talks all the time. I mean, we used to kid him about being a minister, which he is, but he sounds like an evangelist when he talks to those hitters.
He might save a couple of careers. Here's the 2-2. And a fly ball to right field, shallow. Baseman field to Williams, who takes it.
Easler had a tremendous impact on Pat Listash last year, and I think he was one of the biggest reasons that Listash ended up Rookie of the Year. It will be interesting to see how Listash adjusts without Easler, because sometimes a batting coach, while they can be overrated, can really become a crutch for a player, particularly psychologically.
Bases empty, 2 outs. Carlos Quintana. He's hit the ball to shortstop 3 times today. And a fastball in there evens the count. 1 ball, 1 strike. Chops, and glad to have Quintana back after the serious injuries in the car crash that kept him out all of '92. This is a guy who can really murder left-handed pitching, just the opposite of what Mo Vaughn has done. Quintana to the tune of 340 2 years ago, and of course Mo Vaughn 190 in '92, and that certainly didn't help the Boston offense.
Well, they were eaten alive by left-handers last year, Bob. They added, you get Quintana back, you add Calderon, you add Dawson, and even a guy like Bob Melvin has slugged almost 400 lifetime against left-handed pitching coming off the bench, and a valuable addition.
3 balls and a strike to Quintana with Andre Dawson on deck. With that guy fourth, hitting in the number 3 spot, enviable position in that Boston lineup this year. Because at Fenway, Dawson could be deadly. Here's the 3-1.
During the season, Mike Greenwell will probably be hitting third, and he's had a very good spring after 2 or 3 years of ankle problems which forced him to hit off his front foot. He looked like he was a flamingo hitting. He still had some elbow problems as far as throwing goes, but he claims he'll be ready when the season starts. That's something we have to wait and see.
There's a fastball that paints the outside corner. Quintana gone, so are the Sox, and into the bottom of the 8th here we go in Fort Lauderdale. Yankees still lead 3-1. Yankee fans enjoying a relatively nice day here in Fort Lauderdale today. Weather has threatened a couple of times, but we're into the bottom of the 8th inning. And the New Yorkers lead the guys from Boston 3-1. Darrell Irvine will be the 3rd Boston pitcher of the afternoon.
Well, Darrell Irvine is looking for a job, basically. This is one of those showcase. He's not going to make the staff. In my mind, he's got a good sinker. He's always had trouble keeping it in the strike zone. A few times he's come up from the minor leagues. He's sat around, has never been able to get his control, but he may be a guy like a Carl Willis or a Tom Edens who at 30 or 31 years old finds himself in about his 2nd or 3rd organization.
And to the top of the order, where Bernie Williams leads off for the Yankees. Williams has hit 3 ground balls now today, one of them for an RBI, and he's 0 for 4. As Cheo Garcia, who just took over at second base, takes care of him.
Peter, you mentioned a guy like Edens or Willis. That's really why clubs are reluctant to give up on players. Another guy, absolutely perfect example, Edgar Martinez, a guy who didn't make it to the big leagues until he was 27, spent like 8 or 9 years in the minor leagues, and yet now all of a sudden he's the defending American League batting champion. So I don't know. Sometimes you give up on players too young. Sometimes you hold on to them too long. I guess the magic is trying to figure out which ones may blossom.
Well, it's hard to tell. You look at the Phillies, and to me, that the upside potential of that pitching staff that Lee Thomas has put together is one of the best in the National League. Every one of them has come out of another organization. And Schilling, Rivera, Tommy Green, they were guys that other clubs just simply gave up on. Now you have in the American League, you have Cleveland trying to do the same thing. I mean, it's basically Charles Nagy and a cast of others. They're trying to go and do exactly what Philadelphia did.
It's where your scouts come in. No question about that.
0-2 to Andy Stankiewicz, who makes his first appearance of the afternoon at the plate. He bounces out to short. John Valentin throws him out. And that's 2 down here in the 8th inning. And coming up tomorrow, the Pirates and the Twins will match it up from the other side of Florida. 12:30 Eastern time with our coverage. Jay Bell anchors that infield at short, and Kirby Bucket, of course, is baseball to a lot of people in the Twin Cities. Pirates and Twins tomorrow on ESPN. That'll get your afternoon off to a good start. A little weekend doubleheader for you here. We'll go from Fort Lauderdale over to the west side of Florida. And Don Mattingly is next up. Almost as hard as keeping track of the players as keeping track of where the teams are training now. So many changes last few years.
And the Yankees are going up to right outside of Disney World 2 years from now.
2 balls and no strikes.
Peter, who do you like in the East? I got to put you on the spot. I mean, we're looking at 2 Eastern Division teams. You got certainly Baltimore, Toronto in the mix. I kind of like Milwaukee, but I just saw Kiefer went down with elbow surgery, so he's going to be out.
Well, I think right now, because I can't judge who Toronto's going to go out and get for that pitching staff, I really do like the Yankees. I really think that Their pitching staff 1 to 10 is the best. They have a lot of depth. Baltimore is a very intriguing team, though. Ben McDonald looks like he's made tremendous strides. Arthur Rhodes has got the great arm. They've added some more depth in the bullpen. And I think big thing with them is, though, they cannot afford any injuries. And if anything happened to Devereaux or Brady Anderson or Cal or any of those players, they'd be in big trouble. One interesting thing to watch with them, come June, Jeffrey Hammonds. That's all anyone's talking about over there.
Well, there's the final standings from last year. Milwaukee just couldn't get it done. They played so well late. 4 back. Baltimore's 7. And there's what we talked about earlier, only 3 games separating the Yankees and the Red Sox down at the bottom. Boston last for the first time in 6 decades.
The shame of it for the Brewers is that once again now with Hamilton and the rest, they start the season hurt.
Mattingly beats it out. It was off the glove of the pitcher up the middle. Irvine got a piece of it, but Don Mattingly getting on board for the 2nd time today, his first base hit.
Well, Mattingly had his best year last year since 1989. It wasn't Don Mattingly years of old, but he still showed some improvement. So Mattingly will leave for a pinch runner. Now, nice play by Valentin coming across after the ball was deflected off Irvin's glove, but clearly safe at first base. Looks like Dave Silvestri has come in to run for Mattingly, so Don gets congratulations.
You are correct. Number 36 with the leadoff as Williams steps in. And up the middle it goes to short. Valentin to Garcia, and the Yankees are gone bottom of the 8th. So to the 9th inning we go, and it's 3-1 New York. First pitch, top of the 9th, and Andre Dawson has grounded out into the hole. Andy Stankiewicz went to his right and threw him out. And the Yankees are 2 outs away from their 13th win of the spring in 19 outings.
Well, shades of Davey Concepcion, although not playing on AstroTurf, but Stankiewicz goes to the hole. I don't know if by design or not, but he just throws a nice one-hopper off the grass to Kevin Moss. Those are the easy ones. If they hit out on the grass, it's those in-betweeners that are tough for the first baseman to grab. Concepcion, of course, did it for years on AstroTurf.
Scott Cooper is next. Cooper 0 for 3. And here's the 1-0 pitch. He has to duck away from a tailing fastball. Neil Heaton throwing well again today, trying to close out 3 scoreless innings of work. Yankees only only gave up 1 run today. That was back in the 2nd inning. Bob Wickman 1 run given up in 4 innings. John Habian 2 innings of scoreless relief, and Heaton trying to cap it in quick fashion here. Red Sox with a spring record of only 5-10 so far. Doesn't hurt to have that winning habit, even though they say it's meaningless down here. If George Steinbrenner's back, you might as well go 13-6, right, Dave?
Absolutely. Make him happy. You see the smiles on his face as Cooper hit by the pitch, though, so the tying run comes to the plate.
Yep, fastball got him.
Heaton had come in twice. This time, according to the home plate umpire, and rightly so, Mark Johnson had got his jersey. So John Valentin comes in.
And he's had a good day. Just did graze the shirt. Scott Cooper at first, tying run at the plate, and Valentin 2 for 3 today. And he hits one hard to left field, but right there is Mike Humphreys. Had him played perfectly. Coming up next on ESPN, we've got women's golf for you from the LPGA Tour. They're out in Phoenix for the Standard Register Ping. And again, in the 3rd round, Dawn Coe-Jones has taken a 4-stroke lead over veteran Patty Sheehan. 3 players were within a stroke of each other at the start of today's round, but Dawn has taken control, and that's coming up in just a little bit on ESPN. Greg Blosser, the final hope here for the Red Sox in the top of the 9th. Heaton tries to take care of them, and a towering fly ball out to center field. With this wind blowing, forget it. Bernie Williams has it, and so do the Yankees in a snappy 1 hour, or rather 2 hours and about 15 minutes. So it's a 3-1 New York victory. They out-hit the Red Sox 7-5, and we'll be back to Fort Lauderdale for a final word in a minute. A little post-game work for the Yankees on the heels of a 3-1 win over the Red Sox today. The Yanks are now 13-6 in the spring, 7-1 here at home, and they get to run a little sprint action after a good win here today.
Part of the deal in spring training, getting those laps in. Don Mattingly circling around. There he is. Donnie got a base hit today. Everything going very well for the Yankees in their camp so far. Everybody appears to be healthy. Their pitching has been strong this spring. I think something certainly to build on, and you heard Peter say he likes the Yankees' chances very much in the American League East this year. On the other side of the coin, another tough loss for the Red Sox, 5-11, not getting a lot of hitting out of anybody. You know they have the given in Roger Clemens and Frank Viola, but I think an awful lot of question marks after that. And if they think it's all Butch Hobson's fault, folks, I got news for you. It's more than Butch Hobson. They don't have any team speed. Their defense is very suspect, and they better get some more pitching.
Well, another thing folks like about a game like this, the speed at which it was played. You've heard a lot about the quicker ball games this year. This one just a little over 2 hours and 15 minutes today as the pitchers were around the plate. Will it be that quick tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see as we go over to the west side of Florida. Kirby Puckett and the Minnesota Twins hosting Jay Bell and the Pittsburgh Pirates. That comes your way 12:30 Eastern time tomorrow on ESPN. The Pirates, a mystery team heading into the season, and the Twins could return to contender status in the American League West.
Absolutely. Dave Winfield has joined the Minnesota Twins. Get a chance to look forward to seeing perhaps Big David tomorrow back in his hometown of Minneapolis. Grew up right in that Twin City area. Yankee fans certainly very happy. You know, I guess there was a silver lining in the cloud for the Red Sox today. It had to be the work, I thought, of Nate Minchie, the starter. I think he's a pretty good-looking young prospect. Very sneaky fastball. Buck Showalter's got everything working on all cylinders for the Yankees. They got to stay healthy, and if they get the pitching the way it's been so far this spring, I agree with Peter that they're certainly going to be a force in the American League East.
All right, Dave, thanks for joining us today, along with Peter Gammons. A lot of folks like those Orioles. And again, coming up in just a matter of moments on the LPGA Tour, the standard register ping from Phoenix. Dawn Coe-Jones is your third-round leader with Patty Sheehan behind her. So for Peter Gammons and Dave Campbell, Bob Carpenter, that's it from Fort Lauderdale, where the Yankees won again today. They're 13-6. They won at 3-1. And now from Fort Lauderdale to Phoenix, Jay Randolph and Mary Bryan, it's all yours.